Hello, I'm Dr. X. Today, we're examining the findings from a recent report from ToxFREE that's making waves: hazardous substances found in all headphones tested. This EU-funded investigation claims that every one of the 81 headphone models tested, 180 samples in total, contained hazardous chemicals like bisphenol, phthalates, and flame retardants, which could lead to cancer, neurodevelopmental issues, and even the feminization of males through endocrine disruption. It's alarming, especially since these include big brands like Apple, Samsung, Sony, Panasonic, Bose and Sennheiser, bought in Central Europe or online from platforms like Temu and Shine. But as a clinician, I always stress evidence-based analysis. Is this a real threat, or sensationalized? The report highlights long-term risks from chronic exposure, not immediate danger, but calls for chemical bans and transparency. We'll break this down, first with simple logic and relatable examples, second, through deeper physiological and behavioral insights, and finally, with scientific theories, clinical data, and terminology. My goal is to help you understand the implications without panic. Let's separate fact from fear. Starting simple, with everyday logic and examples. Imagine your headphones as that trusty coffee mug you use daily. It looks harmless, but if it's made with cheap plastics that leach chemicals into your drink over time, especially when hot, you might be sipping more than caffeine. The ToxFREE project tested 81 pairs, finding 100% had hazardous additives like BPA, in 98% of samples, and BPS, in over 75%. Which are used to stiffen plastics but mimic hormones, potentially causing issues like fertility problems or developmental delays. Logically, these aren't poisons that kill instantly. It's like secondhand smoke. Small exposures add up over years, especially if you're sweating during workouts or kids are chewing on them. Real-world example: think of BPA in baby bottles. It was banned in many places after studies showed it leached into milk, affecting infant development. Here, heat and sweat could accelerate migration of these chemicals through your skin or ears. Premium brands aren't immune. Even Bose and Sennheiser samples had them, showing it's a supply chain issue, not just cheap knockoffs. Simple logic. No acute risk means you don't need to toss your headphones today, but cumulative effects matter for vulnerable groups like pregnant women or children. The report urges bans on entire chemical classes. Makes sense, like how we phased out lead in paint. Until then, opt for certified low-chemical products or limit use, but don't overreact without personal testing. Now, let's deepen with physiology and behavior. Physiologically, these chemicals are endocrine disruptors. They interfere with your hormone system, which regulates everything from reproduction to brain development. BPA and BPS mimic estrogen, binding to receptors and altering signals, leading to effects like male feminization, reduced testosterone impacts, early puberty, or increased cancer risk in hormone-sensitive tissues like breasts or prostate. Phthalates soften plastics but impair fertility by disrupting sperm production or ovarian function. Chlorinated paraffins accumulate in fat, potentially damaging liver and kidneys over time. Behaviorally, daily headphone use, podcasts at work, music during runs, exposes you chronically. Sweat and friction speed up chemical release, absorbing through skin, transdermal route, or inhalation if volatile. Kids and teens, with developing bodies, are more susceptible. Neurodevelopmental risks include ADHD-like symptoms or cognitive delays from disrupted thyroid hormones. Real example: patients with high BPA exposure from plastics show elevated urinary levels correlating with insulin resistance or obesity. The report notes no safe level for these disruptors, as they act at low doses, synergizing with other exposures, like from food packaging. Behaviorally, switch to wireless options with less plastic contact or fabric-covered ones. An advocate for labeling, many avoid BPA-free claims, but substitutes like BPS may be equally problematic. Overall, physiology shows bioaccumulation risks. Behavior emphasizes reducing exposure through smarter choices. When it comes to scientific theories, clinical data, and terminology, The ToxFREE report lines up with what scientists call the endocrine disruption theory. That means certain chemicals, like bisphenol found in plastics, can mimic hormones in your body. They act like fake estrogen, binding to receptors and changing how your genes behave. This can lead to long-term effects like fertility issues, developmental problems, or even increased cancer risk. What's especially concerning is that these chemicals don't need to be present in large amounts. Studies show that even tiny doses, measured in billionths of a gram, can be harmful. That's called a non-monotonic dose response, where low doses can be just as disruptive as high ones. Phthalates, another group of chemicals found in soft plastics, interfere with testosterone production. This can contribute to male reproductive issues like undescended testicles or reduced genital development. What researchers call testicular dysgenesis syndrome. Then there are chlorinated paraffins, used as flame retardants. These build up in fat tissue and trigger oxidative stress, which can damage the liver and kidneys over time. Animal studies show they activate detox enzymes and cause inflammation. So while your headphones might seem harmless, they could be slowly leaching hormone-disrupting chemicals into your skin, especially with heat, sweat, and daily use. It's not about panic. It's about awareness and smarter choices. Let's look at the clinical side. Large-scale biomonitoring studies, like NANS in the US, show that over 90% of people have detectable levels of BPA in their urine. That means exposure is widespread. And it's not just a lab finding, it's linked to real health risks. People with higher BPA levels have increased odds of developing heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even neurobehavioral issues. For example, studies suggest prenatal BPA exposure may raise the risk of autism-like symptoms in children. The ToxFREE project used advanced chemical testing, XRF and GCMS, and found BPA levels in headphones as high as 351 mg per kilogram. That's way above the European safety proposal of 10 mg per kilogram. These chemicals don't just sit there, they migrate. Heat, sweat, and friction accelerate their movement from plastic into your skin, following basic diffusion laws. And it's not just one chemical. The real concern is the cocktail effect, multiple low-dose exposures working together to amplify harm. This fits into what scientists call the exposome model, the idea that chronic, low-level exposures from everyday products shape our long-term health. It's not about acute poisoning, it's about slow, silent accumulation. Of course, the study had limits. It tested 81 headphone models, mostly in Europe. But given how global supply chains work, the findings likely apply more broadly. That's why experts are calling for REACH-style bans and stricter chemical regulations. In conclusion, the ToxFREE findings reveal a systemic issue. Widespread endocrine disruptors in headphones pose long-term health risks through hormone mimicry and accumulation. It's not hype, the science backs chronic concerns, especially for vulnerable populations, but not a reason to ditch tech entirely. Prioritize certified safer alternatives, support regulations, and get tested if concerned, for example, urinary BPA levels. As always, balance benefits with risks. Thanks for watching. Questions in the comments. Stay informed and healthy.